create an inspiration and teach us more about collaboration and the meaningful of building connections. If I may introduce Darlene, the member for Fowler, and she's renowned for serving the community with courage and compassion. Darlene. Dr. Michelle Cole, Associate Dean, Engagement, Senior Lecturer, Accounting and Financial Planning, Western Sydney University School of Business. Michelle. Athena Manley, Chief of Strategy and Chief of Staff at AON.com. Athena Manley is an energetic executive leader known for driving growth, innovation and change. Yasa Zaki, Global Chief Executive Officer at TLC. Yasa is an experienced and inspirational executive leader with a strategic vision to grow a commercially sustainable and ethical organisation. The person who's going to manage and take the panel on a journey is Councillor Laura Cow, Chief Executive Officer at TLC Australian Operation. Yay. Laura works as an experienced marketing and business growth professional. Councillor Cow has worked extensively across corporate and not-for-profit sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet the panelists.
Right, is that working? Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, and the back at TLC on that? Excellent. Okay. Welcome everyone. So today we're discussing the important topic of mentorship and community growth. Mentorship is all about learning from someone who has been there before. It helps people grow faster and make fewer mistakes. On the other hand, community growth means making our society stronger and better for everyone. When we put mentorship and community growth together, they create a powerful combination. Mentors help individuals grow, and those individuals help their communities grow. It's a cycle of learning, growing, and improvement. Our panellists this afternoon will share their experiences and ideas about these topics. We will learn how mentorship has shaped their lives and how it helps our communities. So thank you for joining us, and let's get started. I'm going to go through and ask each of you just to take a minute to share who you are and what mentorship and community growth means to you. So we'll start now with Dr. Michelle Cole. Is that working? Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Cole. I work at Western Sydney University and have been involved with mentoring for a very long time now, both as a mentor and as a mentee. At our university we have an internal mentoring program that I've been part of, and I found it very valuable. This was going back probably about 10, 15 years now. And I also in my current role have developed a mentoring program for our students. And in addition to that, I mentor somebody outside the university, and I've benefited from being a mentor as well as a mentee. I'm not sure if that's probably enough for now.
Hi. I've got a very deep voice. And so my name is Diane Lee. I'm the first ever independent federal member for the Federal City of Fowler, which takes in Warwick Farm here. Mentoring is very important for me because I arrived here as a refugee and couldn't speak a word of English. So growing up, I did not actually have any mentors and did not know the concept of mentors or mentoring at all. Until in later years when I was a journalist and I participated in a program called the Vincent Fairfax Leadership and Ethics program that put me in touch with mentors. And mentors can be very, I've tried over the years to set up a mentoring program, especially for culturally and linguistically diverse communities out here in Southwest. It has kind of been a bit strange because from the cold background, there isn't such a structured program of mentoring, and we didn't understand the concept yet. But what I do organically is actually have a lot of young people coming to my office over the years, guide them, and over the years I've actually reached out to those that are in the sector, such as in journalism, when I was a journalist, to ask for advice. But as a cold woman, you're very hesitant to ask for advice as well because you think that you're not good enough and that they might judge you. So that there are a lot of, I think, barriers, challenges around the mentoring and mentorship space for me. But for me now, in my position, I encourage young people, especially young people of non-English speaking background, to come into to work with me or to intern with me, and I guide them through their careers.
Thank you, Anne. I'm Athena Manley, Chief of Strategy and Chief of Staff now, and also CEO of Flexible CEO. And I think mentorship means different things at different stages in our lives. And when we're children, we might have a kindly teacher who lends in and helps us through that journey. When we walk into our first job, we might have people there that we admire, that takes us through that stage and invest in us. And then as we go through our career, we might take that next stage of being a mentor to someone. And I'd imagine in this room, each of us will have a different experience in mentorship. And this room is filled with really wonderful, successful people in this area. And I'd like to ask that question and have a raise of hands. How many of you have had a mentor in your life? In your life at some stage it's really made a difference. Alright, so almost everyone has had the benefit of someone who's played that role in their life. And maybe put your hands up again if you still have a mentor in your life. So fewer hands, but still many. And how many of you would then consider yourself to be a mentor, either formally? Great. And these things come about. Sometimes it's just somebody that you meet and admire, and that's happened to me. But I think it's really important in every stage of life. And even I can just notice a smile on people's faces as they start to think, as you raise your hand, you thought of that person who was a mentor to you and the difference that they made. And all of us can be that person for someone else. And I think that's really powerful. As a community like this, it's really something amazing.
I'm a little bit controversial in my thinking around mentorship behavior, and just being me and putting the seed of thinking. Mentorship, my name is Yasser Zaki, I'm the Global CEO of the London Care Group. So the way I look at mentorship is a lot of people come in and say, can you give me advice? And I'm an anti-advice type of person, and I'll tell you why. Advice can come from an area that doesn't have experience, that doesn't have a track record behind it. So a lot of people would advise based on what they think is right, and not necessarily that it's right. That's where mentorship is very powerful, because mentorship comes from a track record that I have done that before, this is what worked for me, and this is the outcome that I've had because I've done what I've done. So it's a very clear pathway in what has happened, what could have happened, and what's the outcome from that journey. So I look at it very differently, and then it's up to the person, and we empower the person to then take from it what matches them. What works for someone doesn't necessarily mean it works for the other. And mentorship creates that school of thought of, I'm facing this challenge, and you're taking me through the journey. And then the person can then share their own experiences of what they faced into. So even if any of my team or anyone comes and says, can you give me advice on this? I say, well, let me tell you how I've done it, and what outcome that I got out of it. And then that's how people take it and learn from it. So mentorship for me is a track record, a proven track record of the journey that has an outcome that is detailed and very clear to the person.
Having a mentor, I feel, is not just one mentor. And I think you can have multiple mentors, given how many different aspects of our lives you are different, right? So we have a lot of different reasons that we might have a mentor. So Dr. Michelle Cull, you talked a little bit about your internal mentorship programs at the University of Western Sydney. Could you tell us a little bit more about how mentorship has helped students there? What kind of benefits it can bring to their careers?
Thank you, Laura. Well, our mentoring program has been very successful, and it's because we have some great mentors, and some of them are actually here today. There are members from Canterbury Bankstown Chamber, who also volunteered to be mentors in our program. But for our students, we have a lot of very diverse mix at Sydney University. So as we've already heard today, some students are probably a little bit more reluctant to ask questions that because they are really worried about feeling silly, especially in large groups in classes. We find that happens as well. But also, a lot of our students don't necessarily have the social networks that maybe students at other, like Sandstone universities, might have. And so our mentors can not just help our students in terms of building their confidence, but showing students that they've got somebody there who's really cares for them and is really supporting them through every stage. So whether it's sitting exams, whether it's setting times to study, but then at the end of it, it actually is helping our students to progress into their future careers. So some students, even at university, they've had to choose what they will study, but they don't necessarily know what their career might look like. So having mentors who have experiences in different career journeys can really help our students, because our students can ask them questions about what they do, how do they choose, what is it like in the workplace nowadays, particularly for our international students. That can be really important because they don't necessarily understand what it's like to work in an Australian business. It can be very different for them. So if they have someone that they can trust, that they can talk to, share some of their concerns, hear about their experiences, and also those mentors can introduce those students to other people who can also help support and guide the students, and perhaps even to future employers as well. So it's been wonderful to be able to see the students from when they start the mentoring journey to when they finish. And we have a semi-structured program to try to encourage the students to meet regularly with their mentors. But once that is finished, we do hope that students go on with more of an informal mentoring relationship.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to hear about these mentorship programs in the universities because they are our future. Dilene, congratulations on being the independent federal. It's wonderful to see that. And leading on from the university, the diversity that's in there, can you share some insights on how mentorship has helped immigrants and refugees in the community integrate better?
I'll just continue on from what Michelle just, and as you were speaking, I was just thinking, for me, mentoring is not so structured, and yes, it's correct. It's about advice, and to seek advice from somebody who's got an experience in certain areas, and it's going to contribute to you. Say for instance, being part of the Vincent Fairfax Ethics and Leadership Fellow program, the director of the Ethics Centre, which is Dr. Simon Longstar, even though he's not my mentor, I have over the years have gone to him and sought advice from him for some ethical questions, or what ought one to do. How should I progress with this? In my political arena, I can't find a mentor. I can't go up to somebody who has walked the path of being an independent member before, and who's from a cold background like myself, and say, how did you do it? Because there hasn't been anybody. So that is a challenge for me. Over the years, I've been constantly thinking about how do I get that kind of advice from somebody who's been there before, and advice that you can trust, and that you can trust that person to give you advice. And as a result of that void, I have put myself forward as somebody that whichever political parties people are aspiring to join, or as an independent, I've encouraged people to reach out to me so that I can give them advice on the journey that I've taken. In the cold community that I work with, a lot of young people seek advice from me because in the business sector, for instance, not that I have done set up a business, but somebody say, a friend of mine who decided to launch into setting up a manufacturing company in Brisbane. She was in Fairfield. She said, I remember her saying, I have not done manufacturing before, packaging, but I'm going to launch into this because of what you did, which is you went into politics without having any experience in politics. I said, well, let's totally do two different things because they don't actually run a company, all that stuff.
Corporate mindset. And ask Athena from AON, and based on your mission at AON, how do you see mentorship playing a role in promoting financial empowerment in society?
Yeah, so my personal mission is really around financial empowerment in society and hand with mental health, and those two things are so interrelated for so many people. And with financial empowerment, I think having the advice from someone who has either walked a similar path or run a successful business is absolutely valuable. There's a lot of wonderful organisations that have the ability to provide financial advice in some capacity, be that you're an accountant, you're a financial planner, whoever that may be for you. However, there's still a big place for mentorship. Your financial people around you can't be there 24/7, and also they're not there to talk about some of those informal things, provide guidance on some of the big decisions, and you want to get a few different perspectives on that, and a mentor can play a really powerful role. So while you don't want to step into, potentially, unless you're a professional, into that stage of giving someone financial advice, there is still an opportunity to be able to say, hey, look, be that a manufacturing company in Brisbane or be it whatever walk of life you're in, how might you look at that through different eyes and save yourself a whole lot of pain? And you see that because sometimes you see people and go, oh, if they hadn't known X, Y, Z, which I could have helped them with, then they might not have had that situation. And so I really encourage people to, while free advice, you might get what you pay for, if you get it from that right person, it can save you years of pain and you don't have to learn the hard way.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Yasser now, and it feels weird asking you this question, but anyway. Look, we all know you're a very experienced leader in the community. We look up to you, and I just want to know what mentorship means to you, and how do you apply it? And I kind of know how you apply it, but I'd love everybody else to find out how you apply that at TLC.
It's very hard to answer that question to Laura because Laura and I work very closely together, so I look at you guys and I look at Laura. Look, I believe that one hand cannot clap, right? So no one can succeed on their own, it just doesn't happen. And the greater part of success is when the community and the impact you have on the community and the people around you is very powerful, very seen. So you become a disruptive leader. And when you speak about disruptive leadership, it's not just in business, but it's also in the way you mentor others. To look up to you and say, this person made a difference. Why am I not doing this thing? If it worked for that person, why isn't it working for me? And that's a level of mentorship with that. I can't go to everyone that I know and mentor, but what I can do is I can lead by example. And I can show people the way that you can do business and you can be successful while helping people and doing good in the world. And that level of mentorship to the community, it changes the way we look at things, it changes the way we do things. It's very important to remember that we're all responsible towards each other. We all have responsibility to support each other to become better, to become in synergy, and to deliver great outcomes from a business perspective and personal perspective. And when we talk about TLC, TLC is my baby. And when I say it's my baby, it's because TLC created the platform for me to deliver exactly what I've been passionate about for years, since I used to work for government in disability sector 15 years ago. It created a platform where I could go out there and say, I am making a difference in this world. Please watch, learn and follow. Please collaborate with me. Put your hands with me. I don't compete with anyone. We're not competitors when we help people. We are friends when we help people. Let's collaborate. Let's put our hands together and let's deliver good outcomes for our community. And the other question about personal, I think you should answer that one, not me, but I've taken Laura, when I decided to put Laura as the CEO of Tender Loving Care, I wanted her to have the same, or share this vision with me, the values and all that. So I made a decision that I'll take her to around our offices in different countries, because she heard all about it, but she hasn't actually seen it. And I wanted her to see the impact we're doing in the world, from having hospitals that we support, or people that are very vulnerable, building schools in the world. And all of this is not particularly business And Laura did take the tour with me, and one of the countries we went to was Egypt. And as soon as she landed, she was like, "Where are the cameras?" And I'm saying that example because it tells you how much we don't know until we actually go there and explore. So part of the mentorship is taking Laura and actually showing her that things are different and come and happen. So that was...
Thank you. I did get to see panelists, by the way, so they just weren't at the airport. Diane, one of the questions that I really wanted to ask you, we have a lot of migrants and refugees in our communities, and which is fantastic because we have so much diversity and there's so much to offer. How do you think we can work to recognise the skills and foster community growth?
I think it's a two-way kind of conversation. It's a two-way street. It's not just one kind of reaching out, but the other one is the pull and push as well, from my perspective. What I do at the moment is that, for instance, when I bring down some of the young people down to Parliament House into my Canberra office, they've never set foot inside Canberra House at all, Parliament, not even for a visit. But I take them inside, which is where we work. So exposing the culturally and linguistically diverse communities, especially the young people, in this space of decision making and policy shaping, really gives them the opportunity to think that, oh my gosh, so this is what you do here, and then how can that means what we do actually has an impact on our daily lives in an everyday sense, because we are the legislators, we make policies, and that really impacts on every single one of us. And I wanted to be aware of the policies and the processes that are involved in it and how they can aspire to be part of that circle in order for them to have change in the future. So at ministerial briefings, at all of the decision making that takes place in Parliament, when I sit in there, my office are all, I employ cold women, this just happened to be women, not that I did it intentionally, it just happened to be women, but they're all from cultural linguistic diverse background, from Assyrian background, Spanish, Italian, Vietnamese, both Chinese, so they just happened to be drawn to me. So my principal advisor is of Laotian Chinese background, so when we have a meeting and legislations change, happen, the people at the decision-making table with the ministers and opposition leaders, the only two coloured faces that are mine and Melinda's. So our institutions, our mainstream institutions, is still predominantly made by, it's just a fact, but I'll call it out, it's predominantly by white, males. And there's nothing wrong, it's just that that's the system we have currently. And increasingly proportionally white women. Again, it's just a fact, so it's just something that I'm saying really obvious. And our bureaucracy is actually worse. The Australian Public Service and the public service, the decision-making level are still predominantly the older Australian generation. So to change that, I have to, or people like myself, when we get to a position of influence, to bring in some of those diversity of perspectives, diversity of experiences, living experience and culture into that space. At the moment, I'm the only one at that federal level, and I don't know if others will be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's interesting how showing people, as you both just demonstrated, is actually a form of that leadership and bringing people along on that journey. So, Athena, I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about how businesses can contribute to community growth, especially in the context of mental health promotion.
Thanks, Laura. This one's near and dear to my heart. I think mental health is a community issue and it is a business issue. And there's still a lot of stigma around mental health conditions, even though almost all of us in this room are going to experience some sort of challenge throughout our lives, and some of us will be experiencing that today. And so businesses and communities have a huge role to play in that. And that destigmatisation, I don't think we're there yet. I think we're at that point where it's still a sign of weakness. It can be a career issue, and I think we do need to move beyond that. And there's a few ways that we can do that. One is to look around and notice the people around us that need that support, to keep talking about these challenges as if it's just as much as going down to Woolies to buy something. That's as normal as this is. But what we need to be able to do to move through that is, yes, to keep talking about it, but also then be able to take that mentorship perspective. Know that that's not necessarily how things are going to continue. Know that we can provide support through organisations like Are You OK and Black Women Institute that we work with now, and through our own lives as well. So I think it is one where you can empower people, you can move through it, but only if we act like it still exists and it actually is out there.
Thank you. Dr. Michelle Carl, can you tell us what kind of role do you think academic institutions like Western Sydney University, what role do they play in promoting community growth? And do you have any examples?
Thank you, Laura. Look, I think that all education institutions have a huge role to play in terms of community growth. At Western Sydney University, as I've mentioned, we are one of the most culturally diverse institutions in Australia in terms of our students, the number of countries that we have represented at our institution. And I think to start with, just having that diversity in the classroom is a real benefit for everybody because everyone's learning from one another. And part of our role as a university isn't just to produce graduates who can go off and get great jobs and they've got skills that they can contribute to the economy, which does impact on community growth, but it's also that social citizenship and understanding about the impact that their decisions have on other people and on the community. And I think that's where our role is really important, to keep our curriculum current, to bring in people, which we often do at Western Sydney. We bring in speakers from all types of backgrounds. We don't just have the big corporates, but we have not-for-profits, we have community groups, we've got the chambers involved, we've got small businesses, large businesses, and also looking at where there are gaps in a community, where there are inequalities. So on the research side, we have PhD researchers, we have our academics, and it's our role to use our skills to break down those barriers for people in the community, to reduce inequality, and I think we're doing a really great job, probably a bit biased, but our Times Higher Education, I'm not sure you've probably been seeing the big signs, but now we've been promoting that Western Sydney University was ranked #1 in the world, not just this year, but also last year, by Times Higher Education for the university that's meeting, that best meets the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that's more than 1,600 universities worldwide. And we all work very hard on that. Is ever sitting in a meeting where this is our objective. And I'm from the School of Business, and out of all of those Sustainable Development Goals, we are really targeting reducing inequality. That's the big goal that we have in our school. Our university was ranked #1 on gender equality, and I can definitely say that is, we all appreciate at the university, women are treated as equals, and I think that's, a really a big thing for our students as well, to see women in leadership roles, to see deans who are female. We now have our chancellor is a female as well. So I think we're really making a big difference there, and this all helps to empower people. When our students graduate, they can see themselves in those roles, and the same as you, Di, as well. I think having role models that students can look up to, and also for them to see that their skills, if they're studying business, for example, those business skills are not just able to be used to make profit. Those business skills can be used on not-for-profit boards or in government. A lot of that decision making is really important, looking at the financials, understanding both personally and professionally how your skills can help other people. So I think we are doing a lot in terms of community growth. It's very important, and education always empowers people. It allows you to look at different perspectives. You're always learning from one another, and you're able to see where the gaps are and what you can do to actually help meet those gaps. And in terms of our research, that's what we're trying to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Okay. I'm going to ask one more question before I throw out to everybody, so get your thinking on, because I'm kind of getting over talking, even though these guys have been doing all the talking. I'm going to go to you, Yasser, my last question. TLC does a lot of impact investment, and from a business perspective, how does fostering community growth align with ethical and sustainable practices?
There's a narrative that I've heard so many times that making money or running a successful business doesn't mean that you can help it. Completely not true. Statistics show that businesses that have impact connected to them, they double the return and double the impact on the community. And that's the power of it. So businesses that don't have an impact mission, they tend to have almost half the return on the investment. And you'll see that from all the C-suite companies that, I mean, we have McDonald's, they have Ronald McDonald's House, we have Woolworths, have the Woolworths Foundation, we have the Emirates Foundation, and we have TLC that has impact, very powerful impact to it. And the idea is that we can do sustainable business and help the community and put our hands together and deliver a great outcome. So it's just that, there's a lot of business people around the room, and I've always talked about this. Think outside of the box. The sky is no longer the limit. And start putting your thinking hat on, how can I run a successful business while helping people? There's nothing wrong with that, And it's not hard, because if you talk even to us or to, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the room and other people in your lives and mentors can tell you ways of doing that. It's very important to just think of it. And think about it, if you're running a business and you're helping someone, and someone comes to you to buy your product and discover that you are actually helping someone, they're more likely to get your product more. I had a conversation with Leah earlier. She was talking about coming to our coffee shop, which I had no idea. She just told me 20 minutes ago. And she was telling me how awesome the service was, and the coffee was reasonably good, and the guy was going to she gave me this feedback. But what I'm saying is, that's an impact, because when we impacted Leah, she told me I'll be coming to this coffee shop all the time to buy from. So that's what we're trying to do. Now, it is a business for the guys, and they will be getting money out of it, but it's also helping them to contribute that to them.
Thank you, yes. Okay, so I'm going to look around the room, and I think I'm going to have to run over in my heels if anyone puts their hand up. Do we have any questions for our panel? Wally, sure. There we go. Okay, one second.
This is a question for Diana. I just wanted to know what made you go into politics. Number one, and why?
I had no plan to go into politics. I was a journalist for 2 decades, so I really want to tell stories, really. So I got into politics by accident. I campaigned for a car park in Cabramatta, and so that was in 2008. And then from the campaigning, I then thought, well, this is a good way to get things done for the community. And then I got elected onto Fairfield City Council in 2012. And from then on, I was still being a storyteller on council, but then, so then, last year with the federal election, I thought, hang on, why is there somebody from Scotland, Ireland coming to Fowler to try and represent us? So she has no idea. She's not from the community. She will have no idea what we've been through. So I just, and with the community, so it's not one hand clapping, it's two hands with the community, and with the support of the local mayor, we campaigned about 4 weeks campaign, We got it. So I wanted to win, but it was the safest. Sorry if you're a Labour supporter, it was not about you, but it was the safest Labour seat, and I'm the first ever independent to have won it, and at a time when the whole country went towards Labour. So that says something about our community. I love our community for that, because they've stood up.
Do you find that, have you found that in your first term in federal politics, have you started to make a difference in your community and the people that you live with and breathe with?
Absolutely. I didn't realise how much of an impact I could make. And I think I mentioned to Wally that the first 6 months of my election, I already managed to amend 2 major industrial pieces of legislation. And it was unusual, apparently, I was told, because no independent can make an amendment. If you're a government in power, which is the case Labour, if they have the numbers, they can say no to you. But they had the numbers, they said yes, but in addition, the coalition voted for my amendment. So that was apparently the first. I was able to work to advocate for the freedom of a Vietnamese Australian political activist. And I was able to utilise my Vietnamese heritage in spoke, there were a lot of people who actually were having advocated for 4 years for his release. But mine was, I was able to visit him in Vietnam as the first ever foreigner that the Vietnamese government allowed me to visit. And he just got released 2 weeks ago. So that's another. And then other things is that I have really shone the spotlight on Fowler. And the stories that we hear from Fowler, it's not about drugs, poverty, but highlighting the richness of our multicultural community, but also the challenges that we face with the lack of infrastructure, with the settlement of more than 12,000 refugees in the last 5 years into our community. So I believe, and a lot of people tell me that somebody was stopped in the street, who would tell me how much of an impact I have made in the last 12 months. You have to raise your hand higher, the gentleman there.
Hi, my question is about mentoring. So there's a lot of businesses that would like to give back and be a mentor, but it's quite an onerous task. And so in terms of structuring mentoring platforms, how much should be structured, how much should be informal, I think that's the key to getting mentoring going in our community. So I'd like to know experiences in that.
So at the university, the way that we structure it is that we first of all do the matching. So it's a bit of a recruitment drive in a way to look for the students who are really looking for a mentor and who we have who are willing to be mentors. And then it takes a really long time to actually do that matching, and it's been explained in some of the literature as like matchmaking in marriage. But some people think that you need to match a mentee with a mentor that's got the same discipline. That's not necessarily the case. It could be for many different reasons, and we ask a few questions. Sometimes we have students who want to be with female students who'd like to be matched with a female mentor, for example, because it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. So that is a little bit structured to get that right. But also having a semi-structured program, at least it sets some ground rules so that people sort of know what they are allowed. It gives them permission to share information, but also provides them with a safe place just to have some rules around it. But I actually think, it's great to have the structure, and I had that myself as a mentee, but it was what actually happened after that, once the relationship had developed, where I really found the benefit, because as with any relationship, it takes you a while to build up that trust as well. So from the university's perspective, we need to have some structure around it also to protect our students.
And yeah, just to add to that, I think there's a few ways you can go, depending on the size and complexity of your organisation. It's something that I've come across very, I've had the really structured programs right down to completely informal, let's just pair 2 people and see how that goes. Well, what I found is I've now got about half a dozen mentees. People tend to just seek me out, which is wonderful, but then it becomes about having an impact in a reasonable amount of time. So being able to, you know, as senior leaders and people in business, you haven't got all the time in the world. And someone shared with me recently, this is working really well at the moment, is just to commit to 3 sessions. Only 3, and be really quite pointed around, okay, first session's going to be, let's work out what you really want to get out of this. And then by the 3rd one, you really kind of know whether you can add more value here or whether your job is done here. So I've found just even if you can commit to 3 45-minute sessions, have a great impact on someone, they can call you from there. Otherwise, some of the relationships kind of go on for a long time, it gets kind of awkward, or you can have this, you know, and it's not valuable to either party.
The question that I had was for the panel, and it doesn't matter which one of you answer the question, is you've all come from diverse backgrounds and had other industry experience before getting into the line of work that you do now. How much of the experience and education you took from previous employment and industries have you been able to apply during your own business? Because a lot of people think you may need a mentor just in that industry, when taking it from a diverse industry can still be applied to yours.
I'll go first. I had 20 years as a journalist, as a storyteller. I was an independent filmmaker, so that means I went out to make my own independent films, raising funds. I had to then, after my journalism, I left after 20 years, went into trying a small business, you know, like a not-for-profit. And all of that actually added to my skills in politics, because especially the 2 decades of journalism, I was able to doorstop and ask anybody a question, from the Prime Minister down to someone who is a drug, you know, addict. Exposure to all the different environments enabled me to be able to obviously survive the political world, and being a councillor as well, an elected councillor. I don't know what's yours, where you are, Laura, but say in the southwest of Sydney, it has been very brutal, especially for a woman. And people don't see that. Sometimes you do, but majority of times you don't see the fightings between the personalities and the smearing and all of that stuff. That as a person of a culturally linguistically diverse background is very hard to take. But all of that has given me, and my lived experience as a refugee, you know, surviving in refugee camps, surviving the boat journey, all of those struggles, growing up in a housing commission, all of that has added to my ability to really see life and to analyse policies from all of that kind of collective perspective, collective experience.
I think, Adam, it's a great question, and everything has 2 ways, right? And we do things for a reason in general. So we drink because we're thirsty, we eat because we're hungry, we exercise because we want to feel a little better, so we always do something for a reason. And mentorship is nothing different. We shouldn't just seek mentorship. We should seek mentorship because we want to achieve something out of it. And it becomes purpose-driven out of it. So if I'm in a certain role that I want to grow into another, and I have a pathway plan, which is something if there was a mentor that have done that, they would tell you that probably you need to have a purpose and where you want to get. And you start finding your mentors along the way, because it cannot be one mentor. You have to have multiple, and you have to target them, and you have to know you can trust in them, and you have to be pre-planning every step along the way. That's how you get the most out of it. And if it is a purpose-driven journey, then you start finding your mentor and you say, this is what I want to achieve, this is what I want to learn from. Sometimes these sessions, and I've done multiple of them both ways, is driven by the mentor, while it should be driven by the mentee. The mentee should say, this is what I want, this is what I'd like you to share with me, your experiences, and this is exactly what I want to achieve. Please show me how you got there so I can try to do the same or learn from it. So whatever you learn along the way, if it's about the purpose, so if you learned it 10 years ago, and you still focus on your purpose and your goal, it will be relevant at some point, because you've done it with a very informed approach and a very well-educated approach. And that's what I thought.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please thank our panel.
so if I may tell you to stand and get close together. So we
Can I jump in, Molly, and just say a great thank you to you?
Yes.
We and I have numerous discussions and we share a lot of passions around supporting businesses in the area. And he's running a mentorship program, that he came and spoke about supporting kids and going into business and how can businesses can help and support. And this is just a token of leadership that we can give back and educate people and get to a good place. So thank you, and it's also great to partner with you. I think before